The issues surrounding plagiarism can often be confusing and misunderstood, possibly resulting in fear, frustration, or confusion for students. This seminar, to your credit, using the words and ideas of others correctly, is intended to address your questions and your concerns regarding plagiarism and academic integrity. Common knowledge might not be as common as you think. Let's find out what it is and what it isn't. In university, we generally use two types of knowledge. We call this common knowledge, and if you'd like, uncommon knowledge. Okay? So I want to talk about common knowledge because we get a bit confused as to what that actually means. So for example, if I say to you, when did Canada officially become a country? What's the answer to that question? Yes, the usual answer, you're a good Canadian, you don't know. Okay, so Canada became a country in 1867. Now, the fact that you don't know that doesn't affect its level of knowledge. This is common knowledge. Regardless of the fact of whether anybody in this room knows it, it's common knowledge because it's a factual thing. It's information. So the birth of someone famous, the inception of a country, whatever it is, this is common knowledge. And we can use this common knowledge without referencing. So the example I want to give you is up there. Pierre Elliott Trudeau was elected Prime Minister of Canada in 1968. Now, did you know that? Probably not, okay? It's a few years ago. Whether you know that or not, this is common knowledge. So if you use this information in your paper, you do not need to reference it because it's common factual knowledge, okay? So that's pretty clear. But let me go one step further. If you use this sentence in your paper and you do not reference it, then you have plagiarized. Now, do you see the difference? You can use the information that's common knowledge in your paper and you don't have to reference it, but you cannot just take this sentence and stick it in your paper and go, well, it's common knowledge, I'll just do it. Where I see this happening frequently is students take a definition out of the dictionary and they put it in their paper and they don't reference it. They don't put quotation marks around it. And then they say, oh, that was in the dictionary. Isn't that common knowledge? No. The information can be common knowledge. The words are not common knowledge. So you must distinguish between those two, and it's very, very important. A colleague of mine, so I will attribute her, when I've worked with her in the past, she's frequently saying common knowledge is not so common. So what's her point? Her point is this: if you're not sure if it's common knowledge, reference it. If in doubt, put a reference in. The worst that could happen is your professor would say, you didn't have to reference that, which is much better than saying, you didn't reference that, you plagiarized, now you're in trouble, okay? So if you're in doubt, put in the reference information for the piece of information. Let me mention one other thing in regards to this. Sometimes we think because we know something, it's common knowledge. Or maybe we come from a different country and everybody in that country knows that information. So we write it in our paper and we assume it's common knowledge because we all know it, all my friends know it. That doesn't make it common knowledge just because you know it or everyone, even in your sphere, knows it, okay? Make sure that it is truly common knowledge. Anytime things move from factual information to interpretation or to additives or to opinion, it's no longer common knowledge, okay? Another aspect of common knowledge is what we call field-specific common knowledge. This one is a bit more confusing, but it's important to understand. And this often applies to graduate students, perhaps a bit more than undergraduate students. But if everyone in a certain field understands a certain theory, a certain concept, it could be very old, you don't need to reference it. So something like Einstein's theory of relativity, if you used it in your paper, would anyone think you came up with it? Probably not. So you don't need to reference Einstein's theory of relativity because everybody knows this is a kind of field-specific common knowledge. So within your field again, if this is very base factual knowledge at a high level, go ahead and use it and not reference it. But in both cases, if you're not sure, reference it, use quotation marks where appropriate, just to cover yourself and to make sure that you're doing the appropriate thing in regards to referencing.